Welcome to the Free Society podcast. Our programming here at Hannibal Grange University is focused on promoting the ideals of a free society. We focus on really three foundations, which are democratic form of government, free market economic systems, and cultural institutions like the church. The speakers we bring to campus and events we host emphasize these concepts that relate to these foundations. And so today we are privileged and honored to have Riley Gaines with us. She really needs no introduction. But I'll provide that for our listeners. She's a 12-time NCAA All-American swimmer. She's a director of the Riley Gaines Center. She's also a leader, one of the leading voices in defending women's single-sex spaces, advocating for equality and fairness, and standing up for women's safety, privacy, and equal opportunities. If you want to know more about Riley Gaines and the Riley Gaines Center, you can visit her website, RileyGainesCenter.org. So welcome, Riley, to our FreeSocietyU podcast today.
Well, thank you. I am so honored to be here, hence the hat.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of you guys.
Awesome. So we'll just start with some easy stuff. Just I thought you probably don't get a chance to talk much about swimming.
No.
Right? So best piece of swimming advice you've ever received that's helped you out in life?
Ooh, me personally, I'm really not that tall for, collegiate, competitive, successful swimmers, especially in sprint events, which is what I did.
Right.
So that puts you at a pretty major disadvantage, when you have someone who's a foot taller than you, off the blocks, off the turns, touching the wall at the end.
Right.
It's a pretty big disadvantage. And so I really had to focus on my underwater kicks. The little dolphin kicks you do off each wall. That's actually technically where you're fastest in the pool, that segment right off the wall. So I really had to improve with that piece if I wanted to make up for the disadvantages that I had.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you swam both the butterfly and freestyle. If you could pick one, what's your favorite?
Ooh, okay. Butterfly is, that's the hard one. That's the one that you look like you're drowning most times. But really, I loved it.
Yeah.
My favorite event was the 200 fly. It's what I still hold the SEC record in. So, I think I'm picking butterfly.
Okay.
I'm one of those crazy people,
When I relate. So when I first started swimming and training for Ironman races, I was in the pool over the local Y, and one of the lifeguards came up to me and said, "Can I ask you a question?" Which is, one of those.
Yeah.
Sounds like this is loaded, right? And she said, "Why do you kick your legs the way that you do?" And it sounds like a good question, but it sounds like one of those why are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
So apparently I was, instead of kicking my legs like this, I was kicking one leg like this, like was
she
wounded.
was on you.
And so then I was like, do you have any other advice to give me? And so for 15 minutes, she stood there and gave me advice.
She needs a promotion
about swimming. So it helped out. It helped out greatly. So just wanted to talk a little bit about swimming. Another easy question, just to kind of lob out at you. You met with our female athletes just a little bit ago. What were your impressions of our students?
I am mad that I didn't go here, to be honest with you. You have the most incredible group of female athletes, being with the softball team, the volleyball team, basketball, track and field. We even had two of the cheer captains who were there, which was so awesome. And the coaches, it really was a different feeling than I felt from really any other school, especially, teams at these schools. So like I said, I think you guys need a swim team. And if you do, I think I still got, a fifth year of eligibility with COVID and I'm taking it.
Maybe you could be a coach.
Hey, don't tempt me.
It'd be awesome, right?
No.
So I'll tell you how awesome our students are. We gave you some gifts earlier. So we have another gift that we want to give you. So our students,
oh my gosh,
gave you all of our female athletes signed a swim cap for you.
This is so cool.
For you to take. We tried to find a frame to put it in, but we couldn't quite find one that was just perfect. But in this way, you get to handle it. And I get to spend, almost every day with our female students and especially our female athletes. And they are committed. They are great academic students. And their heart really shows through. And so this just a gift from them to you for you to treasure. It says HLGU too.
I like the logo. Come on.
So we don't have it. That's our only HLGU swim cap ever in existence. Because we don't have a swim team.
I'm going to frame it. I'm going to find a frame.
Okay,
that is amazing. Yeah. But this is the kind of thing, I felt in the room that you have a group of girls who are thoughtful, of course, like, oh my gosh, but just genuine kindness.
They really are.
It's amazing.
Their Christ-like character really flows through them.
I felt it.
Yeah, their compassion.
I see it.
So to transition a little bit to think about like how we got here, right? To this what I maybe like this cultural moment of what is silliness, as you called it, craziness, this confusion about gender specific. How do you think we got here to this being specifically directed at women?
A couple things. One, I think what we're seeing across the nation, really across the world right now, is weak leaders. I think our leaders are failing us, whether that's, stemming from the tippy top, the leaders of this country, but it starts at the bottom, really is where it starts, and it goes up to the top. So our leaders are failing us. We've seen a lot of cowardice, a lot of compromise from our leaders. And secondly, I think how we got here, what we've seen is we've put our heads down. And we've become complacent, and we're not looking at outside noise. We're looking at, I think especially as Christians, we do this. We have our families, we have our jobs, we have our people around us. But outside of that, we're not looking up from that. And finally, we do, or maybe we're directly impacted by it, and we see, oh my gosh, this is really a problem. So I think a sense of complacency is a big part in why we got here and how we got here.
So do you think some of these leaders in your travels, like a leader that, like especially women leaders, like who would call themselves, a traditional feminist, right? Do you think they've really capitulated to the LGBTQ agenda?
Definitely. I mean, if you think about now, right, the National Organization of Women, the leading women's rights organization created, I think, in the 60s or 70s. And you think about that time period, it's when the implementation of Title IX was going on. Women were finally, entering into the workplace and fighting for equal pay. These people who, like you said, would call themselves feminist, they're leading the charge now and undermining everything that they once fought for. Even if you think of someone like Billie Jean King, right? The incredible tennis player, she played in the Battle of the Sexes. And really, we have her to accredit the federal civil rights law of Title IX. We have her to a credit for that. She's now actively fighting for male inclusion in women's sports.
That's crazy.
It is. And it's almost, it's ironic. It's almost funny, right? Like, it's like, how do they not see the hypocrisy and the juxtaposition of what they once fought for? And now, in the name of championing women and women's rights, they're diminishing our rights.
Would you ever have thought that, speaking of like Billie Jean King, I remember watching her play when I was growing up and just the dominance in her sport. Somebody like Billie Jean King and then someone like Caitlyn Jenner, right? Would you ever imagine that you would have an advocate? Because Caitlyn Jenner's been very open about keeping women's sports, So would you ever imagine you'd have a trans person advocating more for women's sports than you would like a traditional feminist?
No way. No way.
It's crazy to me.
It is, but it shows you, like, I think we look at this issue as a lot of these cultural issues, we look at them as very polarizing and very partisan, but the reality of it is it extends beyond just what you would think would be the normal base here. We are getting people like Martina Navratilova,
right,
who is a world famous tennis player. She's a part of the LGBTQ community. She's a lesbian.
Yeah.
But she says, look, I wouldn't have had the opportunities that I had if men were allowed to compete. And look, we don't agree on anything else, me and Martina, really, but we we agree on this. And I think that's pretty powerful. She's taken
a lot of heat from that.
She has.
The video, and so is J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
And others. So it seems to me, I don't want to be reductionistic, but it seems to me, as I examine this cultural moment, like a lot of it is attributed to a mental health crisis that we're having in our country.
Definitely.
I know you've spoken about that. Do you think really the movement from especially men transitioning to women, that has a lot to do with not addressing mental health issues?
That's the root of this, is that rather than, if someone is genuinely struggling with things they're thinking in their head, they think they're born in the wrong body, and we're affirming that. And we're telling them they're right to believe they're born in the wrong body, which, what a terrible message to send someone.
Right.
We're telling them they're right to feel this way. We're putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
Yes.
We're not fixing the problem, because hormones and surgeries and different things, what we're seeing and what studies show is ultimately that doesn't fix the problem. Actually, a study out of Sweden showed that someone 10 years after dedicating themselves to fully transitioning, they're 19 times more likely to commit suicide or these other horrible effects. So I absolutely believe that there's a mental health crisis that we're seeing. I think social media is to blame. I think that this is being pushed on younger and younger kids who are vulnerable and impressionable and innocent. So yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned this a little bit in your talk with your Q&A with some of the girls, the female athletes, but you've been called a lot of things on social media, right? Some of which we won't repeat here, right? But you've been called things like the common ones, like transphobic, right? TERF, and for those who don't understand what TERF is, it's trans exclusionary radical feminism, right? Bigot, etc. Oddly enough, I noticed this week, following on social media, especially on Twitter, my so-called Twitter, like Twitter X, whatever it is, right, that you were misgendered yourself on social media this week. And so you've openly stated on numerous occasions that you have no animosity towards trans persons, right? And you care about equality in women's athletics. Right?
Absolutely.
And so why then the personal hatred and the vitriol aimed at you, and then, the constant stream of fake news? Like there was a fake article recently about, you got accepted to the 24 Olympics and Leah Thomas didn't, which is completely
I'll debunk
fake.
that right here. I am not going to the 24 Olympics.
But how do you not get discouraged?
Well, to answer your question of why the constant stream of these petty personal attacks and name calling, I think it's very simple to understand once you kind of see it, and it's because they don't have logic on their side, and they don't have science and lived experience and truth and reasoning and common sense. They don't have that on their side.
Yeah.
And that's why they resort to violence sometimes. That's why they resort to spewing names, hateful, derogatory, really obscene names, because they can't dissuade from our argument, using facts or anything else. So that's why I think they use the tactics that they do. But yeah, to your point of being labeled even as anti-trans, it's like, look, my position that I've taken is very much pro-woman. It's pro-reality. It's pro-truth, pro-biblical truth, pro-fairness. That's what my stance is. It's not anti-trans. I'm standing for something rather than against something. Just a few weeks ago, I testified before Congress. Yeah. And the sitting member of Congress, Representative Lee, she's a Democrat from Pennsylvania. She starts reading her opening monologue and she says, I can't believe that I'm going to be forced to sit here and listen to this transphobic bigotry. Wow. And I was really heartbroken in that moment. And not because of that she called me names, but because, look, we're sitting in front of the beating heart of the American Republic. And a sitting member of Congress wants to resort to name calling. Yeah. And so, it's my turn and I read my testimony. And at the end, which this is entirely ad lib, and maybe I didn't mean to say it, but it came out. And I looked at Ranking Member Lee and I said, Representative Lee, if my opening testimony makes me transphobic, then by your own logic, your opening monologue makes you a misogynist. Right. Oh, and the hearing went into a tailspin. Right. I remember that, seeing that splash across social media. And it was like she didn't even know what this word really meant. She didn't know what to do. No. They hate when their own intersectional language is used against them. I think it's because don't you think we've shifted away from an objective truth and objective morality. We've muddied the waters. And we've moved towards this, you can create your own reality and your own identity within that reality. And then if someone attacks that, they're not attacking like a fair sort of philosophical, logical argument, they're attacking you. Yeah. Right. And so that's where I think the vitriol and the name calling, absolutely, comes from. So, what gives you hope in your struggle? Like, I know it's a lot of negativity, right? There's a lot of it seems like there's so many, here's the latest thing that comes out, whether it be the LPGA or Rip Curl, whatever it might be. And it seems like it's a constant snowball rolling down the hill. And so sometimes, I think
as I watch your story unfold, I think, how does she prevent from getting discouraged? What gives Riley Gaines hope?
It's hard, truthfully. Like, there are days where it does feel like, gosh, like we're up against a bigger battle than what we can humanly face. I mean, we can't do this. I can't do this. But I'll tell you that when I start feeling that way, it's a good checkpoint for me. And I realize that, my anxiety and my worries and my stress, I'm not casting that onto the Lord.
Right.
And what gives me hope, and I remind myself of this pretty often, is that, look, we already know who wins. Mm-hmm. Correction, we already know who has won the war. So these little battles we face, when you already know the outcome, it makes you hopeful. It allows me to, feel lighthearted. A lot of what I feel as if I'm up against, they seem just so bogged down and heavy, and it makes me sad. I mean, I pray for these people, and I hope that and pray that their hearts are softened. Because, I feel light. I feel like I can just, smile while doing this. So,
well, the Lord knows what he's doing.
Right.
Right. And so you spoke about the tying of Leah Thomas, right? And down to the hundredths of a second, how that's not accidental. And like the Lord obviously knew who he was putting in this position that could handle it. But where do you see sort of success and light breaking through in this struggle? Are there things maybe that we or our listeners would not know about that it's on the horizon? I know you talk a lot about the Massachusetts lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's coming up, and
yes.
And so are there things like that we don't know about? Maybe the wider public that
absolutely
gives you hope.
Even here in the state of Missouri, there are some really incredible things being done.
Yeah.
You guys have a pretty amazing attorney general.
We do.
The state's lawyer.
He's going to be on campus here March the 1st, I believe.
Well, everyone should go and be present for that, because he's really wonderful, and he's really been, I would say, this nation's leader in pursuing litigation that would uphold the rights of parents and uphold the rights of children and of women. So actually, he and I tomorrow are going to do a press conference together, and he's just wonderful. So even here in the state of Missouri, he just announced a lawsuit a few weeks ago about a school that was allowing boys into the girls' locker rooms, and because of the public pressure and that he really, and now that the public has joined on because of this lawsuit, the school is slowly and quietly trying to reverse policy. So even here in the state of Missouri, there are really great things being done. But yeah.
So good to hear.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, you obviously we're a conservative Christian university and like-minded with you. One of our core values here at HLGU is the promotion of a biblical worldview. So how does your Christian faith impact what you do on a daily basis?
Well, what I was explaining to the girls earlier today is I don't know how people do it without faith. I really don't.
I agree.
Just having something to lean on in your hard days, in your bad days, in your good days. That is, I don't know how people deal with hardships otherwise.
Agreed.
So that is, it really is a blessing to have a good and gracious and faithful Lord that we serve. And I remind myself of just that, like, this is who we're serving. These worldly desires, and really in this space too, what I see a lot in the political world is people who are dedicated to personal advancement and how can they get to that next ring on the ladder. It's easy to see when you have a good perspective of really what matters, and that's not these things, materialistic items and promotions in your job. That's not what matters. What matters is spreading his word and his message and his gospel, just as his disciples were called to do. So that's what this is all about. And I have to remind myself, I don't always think this way. Of course not. I have to remind myself again, like I was telling the female athletes, like it really has to be a balance of truth and grace, which is what our Lord does and did so well. Is balance those two things. So it's easy to become hardened, I'll say, and kind of hypocritical in a sense, and begin to feel animosity towards a certain person or something like that. But I have to remind myself, Riley, as a Christian, we're called to love everyone.
Right.
So just a constant reminder of that is what
the Lord's been reminding us.
Definitely.
Dr. Matz has talked about this. So we don't schedule, like, we have chapel speakers each week, right? Every Wednesday
Right.
here. And we don't give them like a text to preach, right? We don't give them like a topic, like, and say, so we don't have like a semester long topic. The last 2 chapel speakers we've had have both spoken about slowing down, resting, margin. And it's like, wow, is the Lord trying to
what's he
tell
telling
us
us?
something here? So, where do you find refuge in your, like, you're constantly in the public eye, social media, speaking engagements. Where's Raleigh's go-to to have refuge? Like, what do you do?
I'll tell you the biggest blessing is getting married at a young age.
Yeah.
You know, you hear people all the time
Why
say,
don't more people do that?
oh my gosh, it's
Right.
the biggest blessing.
It is.
And I've been, to see so many here. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Because in today's culture, we see people say, oh, live your life, don't get married young. You want to have fun and go out and
No, get married young.
get married young.
I love it.
My husband, he's a constant through the ups and downs. And I'm, all over the place, and he's there through it all.
So he's your stability.
He's my
He's your
stability. And I
good.
probably give him a heart attack, but at least he's my stability.
Right,
So
exactly.
definitely.
So as we just kind of wrap up, just tell us a little bit more. So I mentioned the Riley Gaines Center earlier at the Leadership Institute. Of course, we know this involves you speaking and traveling on a regular basis, but are there any other initiatives that the Riley Gaines Center is pursuing that maybe gets you excited, that gets you out of bed each morning and go, man, I'm really excited about this, that maybe the general public, wouldn't know about?
Absolutely. The purpose and really the goal and the mission of the Riley Gaines Center is to tell the stories of other athletes, other women, other people who have been adversely affected by this gender ideology movement. Right. I mean, even here today at Hannibal LaGrange, listening to one of your softball players who said, look, I just pitched in a game where a male got up to bat. He was a DH, a designated hitter. He comes up to bat and hits it out of the park over a 400-foot fence. I mean, it's stories like that are happening all over the nation, all states, all levels, all divisions, all sports. But people don't know about them for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're just not told on a large enough scale. Sometimes people are fearful of telling these stories for the threats and the intimidations that they are seeing from whether it be your university or outside pressure, whatever it is. But to make impact and to alert people and spread awareness that this is in fact a problem and will only continue growing at an exponential rate, might I add, we have to tell those stories. So that's what the Riley Gaines Center does. It's also a training program to help train and embolden and empower and provide resources to leaders. Because as mentioned at the beginning of this, of how we got here, we need strong leaders, whether that's campus leaders, community leaders, national leaders, school board leaders. That's the purpose and the mission of the Riley Gaines Center.
What's on the horizon for you, Riley Gaines? What are you?
The 2024 Olympics? I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, have you been asked, like, you going to run for office? Are you going to go into politics? Or are you going to continue to do what you're doing? So what does it look like to be Riley Gaines in 5 years, do you think?
Gosh, well, I'll tell you, I could not. You have to actually be crazy to voluntarily run for office. I've got to feel God really tugging me in that direction, and I might still even ignore him. I'm like, no. You got to be really crazy if that's something that you do. So we'll see. Of course, I won't rule anything out. And the question of where will you be in 5 years? I used to have a plan. I used to have a plan for myself. This is where I'm going to be, and I've totally stopped making plans because let me tell you, every time you do, God laughs in your face and he says, yeah, that's not the plan that I have for you. Yeah. So day by day, I pray for direction. I pray that for guidance and wisdom and strength and protection and all the things. So we'll see. There's a lot of different realms to this advocacy role, whether that is, like a legislative role, whether that's, media. There's a lot of routes to take. So we'll see. Yeah.
Well, we'll continue to pray for you and continue to support you as best we can. And we're so grateful to have you here on campus. Thank you for being our guest today and for our Free Society U podcast.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah.